Hello my dear students, you are welcome. In this video we are going to revise and solve paper 22 February March 24. Let's start. Number 1. Which characteristic of living organism is represented by gas exchange in the alveoli? Letter A, excretion, B, growth, C, nutrition, D, reproduction. Look at this figure. It shows movement of air in and out of our lungs. This is called breathing, not gas exchange. What about gas exchange? Look at this figure. Here, alveolus, where inhaled air containing oxygen with higher concentration move in from area of high concentration to area of low concentration. In the opposite direction, carbon dioxide diffuses back from blood to be exhaled through the air of the alveolus. This is gas exchange. What about carbon dioxide? Carbon dioxide is a waste product of metabolism. It is released as waste gas from aerobic respiration. So the removal of metabolic waste is called excretion. So the answer is A. Number 2. The diagram shows how Homo sapiens modern people could have evolved from earlier ancestor. Homo sapiens modern people, Homo heidelbergensis, Homo erectus, Homo habilis. Which statements about modern people and their ancestor is correct? According to binomial system, when we naming certain species, each species is given two names. The first name refers to the genus. Okay, it starts with capital letter like Homo, 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 Homo. So, which statements about modern people and their ancestor is correct? They are the same species, wrong. Not correct. They are same species, wrong. They are the same genus, yes, but not the same species. They belong to different species. Sapiens, heidelbergensis, erectus, habilis. The name of the species start with small letter. Small letter is the second name and start with a small letter. So the answer is C. Number 3. What is characteristic of both insects and arachnids? Letter A, 8 legs, B, exoskeleton, C, only 3 pairs of legs, letter D, wings. As we know, insects and arachnids belong to arthropoda. Arthropods have certain common features, certain properties unique to arthropods, like they have hard external exoskeleton or skeleton called exoskeleton, jointed legs, segmented body. So they share these features, both insects and arachnids. From the answer we can find the answer is B. But let's check and revise something. Look at this insect has 3 pairs of legs. What about this spider or arachnid? It has 8 legs or 4 pairs of jointed legs. They differ in number of legs and they differ in presence of wings. So the answer is B. Okay? Number 4. An animal can swim, has a backbone and produces milk. Which group does this animal belong to? This animal is vertebrate. It has backbone. Produces milk like whale, like whales and dolphin. Can swim in water. They are belong to mammals. Mammals have backbones. They are vertebrate. Can be aquatic. Can swim in water like whales and dolphins. And produce milk for their young. So the answer is C. Number 5. In which cell structure does aerobic respiration occur? Mitochondrion, nucleus, ribosome, vacuole. Aerobic respiration takes place inside certain essential organelle called mitochondria, where glucose as energy coin or energy foodstuff combined and broken down by oxygen in certain several reactions, enzymatic reactions, takes place inside mitochondria. Okay, to release what? To release carbon dioxide and water as waste with a lot of energy yield like ATP, in the form of ATP. So the answer is A. Number 6. Which formula shows the correct way to calculate actual size of an object? When we deal with actual size, image size, magnification, we depend on this triangle IM, where we hide the letter A by your hand to find I over M. So actual size equal image size over magnification. So the answer is B. Number 7. What is the reason why oxygen diffuses into the blood from an alveolus in the lungs? Diffusion of gases, either oxygen and the carbon dioxide, okay, diffuse depending on gradient. What is meant by gradient? Gradient means difference in two areas, area with high concentration and the area with low concentration. For alveolus gas exchange, look at the gases inside the air inside the alveolus and the gases in blood. What about their concentrations? Air contains 21% oxygen and a little little carbon dioxide concentration, 0.04% carbon dioxide, while blood carry 16% oxygen. This is deoxygenated blood, okay, represented as deoxygenated blood, although it contains 16% oxygen and 4% carbon dioxide. What about the statements in your choices? Letter A, the oxygen concentration in the alveolus is greater than the oxygen. Letter A, the oxygen concentration in the alveolus is greater than the carbon dioxide concentration in the blood. In this statement, he compared two different gases, oxygen and the carbon dioxide. This nonsense when we deal with diffusion for the same gas. So letter A is wrong. Letter B, the oxygen concentration in the alveolus is greater than the oxygen concentration in the blood. Look, oxygen concentration in the alveolus, okay, greater than the oxygen concentration in the blood. So oxygen diffuses from air to blood capillary. So the answer is B. Okay, the answer is B. Number 8. The diagram shows two plant cells, cell X and cell Y. Cell X with high water potential, cell Y with low water potential. Which statement describes what will happen to the water in the cells? Look at this figure. This animation shows two partitions where cell membrane lie inside. Look here with high water potential at first, with high water potential, like what? Pure water, distilled water. The other side with low water potential due to solutes dissolve in water. Okay, now the rule of osmosis depends on movement of water from area of high water potential to area of low water potential down water potential gradient. So according to this principle, the net movement of water from cell X to Y. So the answer is B. Okay. Number 9. Which rule describes active transport? Firstly, active transport moves substances from a lower to higher concentration. This against concentration gradient, up concentration gradient. So the answer either C, okay, or D. What about energy need? Active transport requires energy from respiration. Yes. Requires protein carrier in the cell surface membrane. Yes. Let's revise about this topic. Here, two processes compare between passive transport and active. Passive transport, if the upper man, okay, move with the same water current down, this passive transport, it doesn't need energy. Also from area of high level to area of low level, okay, down, okay, this passive transport. What about the other man at the bottom? It dive or paddle upwards by help of energy, muscular energy, okay. Active transport need certain protein found in cell membrane called carrier protein. Carrier protein helps movement of particles from area of low concentration to area of high concentration. Again, it's concentration gradient. But how this protein change its shape, change its 3D shape, conformational shape? How? By baying energy in the form of ATP released due to respiration of the cell. So the answer is D. Okay. Number 10. Which row shows the elements that make up a carbohydrate molecule? Carbon, hydrogen, nitrogen, and oxygen. Let's analyze the word carbohydrate. Carbo means carbon. Hydrate means elements found in water. I mean hydrogen and oxygen. So carbohydrate means carbon, hydrogen, and oxygen. Okay, so the answer is C. But let's check. Biological molecules and their chemical composition. Carbohydrate, CHO with certain ratio, specific ratio, like glucose, for example. Like glucose, C6H12O6 in the ratio 1 to 2 to 1. This for carbohydrate. It is rule for carbohydrate. While lipids, CHO, 3 elements, the same but without ratio between these elements. Protein, nitrogen is a must due to amino group in amino acids, NH2. Nucleic acids containing plus CHO containing nitrogen and phosphorus in nucleotides. So the answer is C. Number 11. Large molecules are made from smaller molecules. Which row names the large molecules and the small molecules it is made from? Let's revise biological molecules. Here, biological molecule, carbohydrate. Carbohydrate may be simple sugar or complex sugar, may be monomer or disaccharide like sucrose, or complex carbohydrate like glycogen, like starch, like cellulose. Its building brick or building unit is called monosaccharide. What about lipid? Lipid is formed from fatty acids and glycerol. Protein is made from amino acids. Nucleic acid is made from nucleotides. What about cellulose? Look at cellulose. Cellulose is a large polymer. It is made from many repeated units of glucose units to form cell wall of the plant. From where this glucose the plant obtained? The plant can synthesize this glucose due to photosynthesis, by photosynthesis. So letter A is correct answer. Let's check B, C, and D. Fat is formed from fatty acids and glycerol. Fatty acids like this ones. Okay, fatty acids and glycerol. Okay, so this wrong. What about glycogen? Look at glycogen. Glycogen is highly branched or a polymer of carbohydrate found and stored inside muscles and liver. Okay, it is polymer of glucose units, excess glucose units. What about starch? Starch is also a polymer, is made from many basic units called glucose. So the answer is A. Number 12. The graph shows the effect of temperature on the activity of any enzyme. Which statements about the enzyme and the substrate at temperatures 1 and 2 are correct? Let's revise how the enzyme works and its mode of action. Look at this enzyme like sucrase enzyme and substrate sucrose in presence of water. Look again, disaccharide called sucrose, complementary fat with enzyme active site, in presence of water, hydrolysis and the breakdown of sucrose is happening. Okay, this enzyme helps break down or hydrolyze sucrose into glucose and fructose. Another enzyme may help building new bond from two monomers. Two smaller molecules can form larger one. Okay, this building enzyme. Look, two small molecules can form a new bond by help of the enzyme, catalyze reaction by enzyme. In presence of heat, what would happen to the active site? The active site shape changes, so no longer act as enzyme. This is called enzyme denaturation due to the enzyme molecules as protein subjected to more temperature, more than optimum, like in 2. So according to these animations, the answer is D. Why? At temperature 1, the substrate fits into the active site of the enzyme. More enzyme substrate complexes are formed in this area. More enzyme substrate complexes are formed in this area. Before what? Before optimum. Before optimum here in this temperature. Beyond this temperature, what would happen to enzyme molecules and its active site? Denaturation, okay, takes place. Denaturing the enzyme molecules, so its activity decreases to reach 0 at this temperature. So the answer is D. At temperature 2, the active site changes shape so that the substrate cannot fit into it. Okay? Number 13. In an investigation, the rate of photosynthesis in a plant is measured at different temperatures. The investigation is carried out at 3 different light intensities: low, high, medium light intensities. The results are shown and drawn. What is the limiting factor for the rate of photosynthesis at point X? Okay, look please. When we answering this question, we have to use a ruler and make this rectangle, or even for simplicity, one line. Okay, this line represent fixed temperature as this part, for example 27, 29, 28. Okay, no problem. This fixed temperature. At fixed temperature, what would happen to this light intensities graphs? Look here, A, B, C, for example. Okay, what about A? Has lower rate than B. B has lower rate of photosynthesis than C. What the limiting factor for this change from A to B and from B to C? Changing light intensity. So light intensity acts as what? As limiting factor. By increasing light intensity at fixed temperature, what would happen to rate of photosynthesis increases? What would happen from B to C increases when we increase light intensity. So light intensity acts as limiting factor. Light intensity, yes, acts as limiting, while temperature is fixed, no longer act as limiting. So the answer is C. Also, look at this graph at this point, for example. Before flattened, before plateaus, what would happen? They are increasing in what? In rate of photosynthesis by increasing temperature before 20. At nearly 20 Celsius, what would happen? Each graph become flat, become plateau. So by increasing temperature from 20, 21, 22 up to 30, according to the graph, no effect of changing the rate of photosynthesis. The rate of photosynthesis still the same here and here in this point and even here. Okay, as we're not changing the light intensity. Okay, we're not changing the light intensity. The light intensity low, still low, but with different temperature. Temperature no longer act as limiting as this areas, as this flat areas here and here and here. Okay, so the answer was C. Okay, now for number 14. In plants, which ions are used to make amino acids? Look at amino acid structure. It is formed from carboxylic acid group containing C double bond OOH, okay, and amino group NH2. From where the plant obtains this N? From certain ion called NO3, nitrate ions, NO3 minus 1, from soil, dissolved in soil. So the answer is B. Number 15. The diagram shows a cross-section of part of a leaf. Which structure is the cuticle? Cuticle is a waxy layer, is formed by the epidermis. It is needed for the plant to reduce water loss or prevent water loss. It lies normally covering the upper epidermis or even lower epidermis. Here, what its label? Which structure is the cuticle? Structure A. Okay, cover the upper epidermis. Number 16. Poor nutrition can lead to condition called rickets, in which bones fail to develop properly. The table shows some minerals and vitamins present in 4 foods: A, B, C, or D. Which food would be best for a child who has rickets? What is rickets? Bowing of legs. Due to what? Lack of calcium. Lack of calcium. That caused by lack of absorption of calcium. Even this child take good source of calcium, also it is affected by rickets due to he is not subjected to direct sunlight, where vitamin D is stored underneath the skin, in fatty tissue underneath the skin, in the form, inactive form, subjection to sunlight change vitamin D, inactive form of vitamin D, into active vitamin D that helps absorption of calcium from his gut, his intestine. So which food would be best for a child who has rickets? Calcium. So the answer A and B, or B. Okay, vitamin D is needed, substance present, take right, so foodstuff B to help the child with rickets. It's okay. From where we can obtain vitamin D? From milk, salmon, tuna, eggs, cheese, fortified cereal, okay, and in presence of direct subjection to sunlight, okay, exposure to sunlight. Number 17. Which food group is chemically digested in the mouth, passed through the stomach, and continues to be broken down by chemical digestion in the small intestine? Firstly, chemical digestion takes place in the mouth for carbohydrate, where salivary amylase helps digest starch into maltose sugar, disaccharide maltose sugar. In the stomach, it's physical digestion, no chemical. And HCl inhibits or denatures salivary amylase that secreted from saliva. Okay, completely inhibited by pH 1 to 2 of the HCl. In the small intestine, where another amylase is produced from pancreas called pancreatic amylase, digests the remaining part of starch to maltose like in the mouth, but in majority or major amount. Also, intestinal maltase enzyme digests maltose into monosaccharides, I mean glucose and glucose, 2 glucose units. Okay, then absorption occurs in the small intestine for all monosaccharides. Okay, so the answer is A. The answer is A. 18. Which row about bile is correct? Organ where bile is produced? Offshore, liver. Okay, liver synthesize bile juice. From where? From senile and old red blood cells. Effect of bile on fat droplet surface area. Okay, bile emulsify fats and increase surface area, so increases the surface area. Process involved physical digestion, where only the surface area is increased without change of the fat molecules, without digestion, where lipase is not found in this chemical reaction in this example. Okay, liver, and the letter D is the answer. Okay, where number 19, the small intestine is where most digested foods are absorbed. The small intestine has many villi. These are some features of the villi. Each villus contains a network of capillaries. Each villus contains a lacteal. The surface of each epithelial cell is covered with microvilli. Villi increase the internal surface area of small intestine. Which statements from 1 to 4 about the villi are important for the efficient absorption of glucose? Look firstly at the features of the small intestine. The small intestine is long. It is about 6 meters in length in adult human. What about it has in its lining finger-like projections called villi. Each villus is covered with epithelial cells. Each epithelial cell is covered or provided with many more microvilli. Okay, microscopic microvilli. All of these features increases surface area for absorption. Here he need about absorption of efficient absorption of glucose. Okay, what about the other features? Look at the villus from inside. It contains network of blood capillaries and lacteal vessel or lymphatic vessel. Lymphatic vessel is needed for fat absorption. Fatty substance absorbed fatty substance like fatty acids like glycerol, cholesterol, like vitamin D, for example, fat soluble vitamins. Okay, what about glucose? Efficient absorption of glucose. Look at each statement. Each villus contains network of capillaries. Yes, because glucose is water soluble. Okay, each villus contains a lacteal. No. Okay, no. Why? Because lacteal is needed for absorption of fatty acid, glycerol, fat soluble vitamins like vitamin D. The surface of each epithelial cell is covered with microvilli. Yes, this helps efficient absorption for glucose. Also, number 4, villi increases internal surface area of the small intestine of sure. So the answer 1, 3, and 4, the letter B. Okay. Number 20. Which statements about xylem vessels are correct? Xylem vessels have cells with cross walls. Xylem vessels have thick walls with lignin. Xylem vessels transport water and mineral ions. Look, This xylem vessel with thick cell wall and lignified cell wall. Okay, its function: transportation of water, transport of water and mineral ions dissolved, and support. What about cross wall? No cross wall. The cross wall between xylem cells, xylem vessels, where they are alive, they are living, they have cross walls. Now the cross walls are broken, okay, broken down to allow continuous column of water passing through. It's okay. So the answer 2 and 3 only. 2 and 3 only. The answer is C. 21. Dodder is a plant that grows on other plant called hosts. The dodder plant connects to the host vascular bundle. The dodder plant does not have green leaves or roots. What correctly describes the regions for translocation? Regions of translocation. Look at dodder plant. Here, it tries to hold the main host and rotate around its stem. Then what? Then supported by this plant for obtaining foodstuffs. Okay, as dodder plant does not have green leaves or roots, so it is act as parasitic plant. It can obtain its foodstuffs from another organism. Okay, look at dodder plant after growth, rotate and revolve around the stem of certain host to obtain nutrients. So what about host leaves? Host leaves is a source of foodstuffs, of carbohydrates and amino acids. So host leaves act as source. What about dodder plant? Obtain nutrients, so it acts as sink. So the answer is C. Number 22. The diagram shows part of the human circulatory system. Which structure is the hepatic vein? Look at this figure. Here, liver. Okay, the liver receive oxygenated blood from hepatic artery. The hepatic artery is branch of aorta, and also the liver receive nutrients absorbed from villi of the small intestine through hepatic portal vein, and the liver share blood circulation by draining blood into hepatic vein through hepatic vein in inferior vena cava. Okay, so what about which structure is the hepatic vein? Hepatic vein, this part. What about hepatic vein in the figure of the exam? Look at the liver. From heart, this aorta, letter E, aorta. Okay, heart, aorta. Aorta branches into hepatic artery, okay, and receive foodstuffs from B, hepatic portal vein, like this one. So what about hepatic vein? Hepatic vein, the exit of blood from liver to circulation in inferior vena cava through what? Hepatic vein. So the answer is G. Look at label. Letter E, hepatic artery. Letter B, hepatic portal vein from intestine to liver, the link between intestine and the liver. C, renal vein. Okay, what about letter D, hepatic vein? Okay, so the answer is D. What is a feature of passive immunity? Letter A, antibodies are acquired from another individual. Letter B, it can be gained through infection with a pathogen. Long-term protection is gained. Letter D, memory cells are produced. He asked about passive immunity. Passive, it means receiving ready-made antibodies from another individual. Okay, acquired from another individual. So the answer is A. Like what? Like when a fetus inside the uterus of his or her mom obtain ready-made antibodies from mother's blood through placenta. This natural passive. Also, a second gift of antibodies is given when the child lactating milk from his or her mother. Okay, lactation, during lactation. This passive natural immunity. What about artificial? If a person given ready-made antibodies directly in his bloodstream, okay, after exposure to snake, scorpion, spider, toxin or venom, okay, to protect him from death, from poisoning. This is called artificial passive immunity. Okay, so antibodies are acquired from another individual. The answer is correct. Okay, also let's break down the other choices. It can be gained through infection with a pathogen. This natural active immunity due to real infection of pathogen. The immune system of the person at this state will trigger to produce antibodies and the memory cells. This active natural immunity due to real infection. Okay, passive immunity, also long-term protection is gained. No. Why? Because no memory cells are released or produced from his or her immune system. Also wrong. Okay, what about memory cells not produced? Okay, not produced. No memory cells, no triggering for immune response. 24. The graph shows the change in the rate of breathing of an athlete. What causes the response during time period Y? Okay, time period Y. Increasing what rate of breathing? Increasing rate of breathing. Look, a decrease in the concentration of oxygen in the blood, a decrease in the concentration of urea in the blood, an increase in the concentration of carbon dioxide in the blood. Sure, yes. An increase in the concentration of red blood cells in the blood. No. Look, please. Due to breathing of an athlete, CO2 concentration increases. CO2 increases in blood due to aerobic respiration. What would happen? The pH drop. Okay, the pH of the blood drop. Sensors in aorta and also sensors send this message to breathing control centers in brain medulla. What would happen? These receptors receive signal referred to drop of pH, so it sends impulses for muscles of diaphragm and the muscles of intercostal muscles, triggering them to more contraction and relaxation for more breathing rate, like in this figure. The frequency of breathing become more, okay, per time, and the depth of breathing is more. Okay, this is due to increasing CO2 in blood. Look, the answer is C. Increase in the concentration of carbon dioxide in the blood through time. Number 25. These are processes that occur in plants: active transport, cell division, osmosis, transpiration. Which processes use energy from respiration? Active transport uses energy from respiration. Cell division need a lot of ATP, a lot of energy to help DNA duplication, mRNA transcription or production or synthesis. translation of mRNA into polypeptide chain, all of this need energy. What about osmosis? Osmosis is passive movement of water depending on gradient and water potential. Transpiration, release of water vapor from area of high to area of low to air, also passive. Okay, so which processes use energy from respiration? 1 and 2 only, the letter A. 26. What is the balance equation for anaerobic respiration in yeast? 6O2 plus 6C6H12O6 reacts to give 6CO2 plus 6H2O. This equation is balanced, but it represents aerobic respiration in living organism. So letter A is wrong. For B, glucose is broken or fermented into ethanol and carbon dioxide. This represents alcoholic fermentation in yeast, right? Like when we make dough in presence of yeast, what would happen? It increases in volume due to release of CO2 in the dough. So B is the answer. Balanced chemical equation represent anaerobic respiration in yeast. C is wrong. It represents anaerobic respiration but in yogurt bacteria where lactic acid is formed, or in muscles. Letter D represent photosynthesis equation. Photosynthesis equation where CO2 react with water in presence of light to form glucose with the release of O2 as waste. So the answer is B. Which labeled organ has a major role in the assimilation of amino acids by converting them to proteins? Amino acids by converting them to proteins. Letter A. A, the liver can form a lot of amino acids into specific important proteins like albumin in blood plasma, like fibrinogen in blood plasma needed for blood clotting. They are formed inside liver by assimilation of amino acids. Also, they can form urea from excess amino acids. Number 28. A toxin that is the same shape as a neurotransmitter prevents muscle contraction. Which statements explain why the toxin prevents muscle contraction? Letter A. The toxin blocks the binding of neurotransmitters to receptors on motor neurons. Letter B. The toxin increases the release of neurotransmitters from relayed neurons. Letter C. The toxin increases the release of neurotransmitters from sensory neurons. Letter D. The toxin stimulates impulses in motor neurons. Let's revise types of neurons. Firstly, sensory neuron, okay, travel or conduct impulses from skin as sense organ, okay, towards CNS. At CNS, communication between sensory neuron and relay neuron. Relay neuron make decision and send impulses towards the motor neuron, okay. Motor neuron send the impulses of CNS, okay, into muscles that act as effectors, okay. Now look at the second figure. Here two neurons, okay, or neuron and the muscle. What would happen? Nerve impulse, okay. At normal cases, this stimulate vesicles containing neurotransmitters to release its neurotransmitters in synapse. Molecules of neurotransmitters, okay, bind with receptors. This is the proper way in absence of toxin. In this exam, okay. What about in presence of this toxin? The toxin block and bind with the receptor, okay, in competitive way of the main neurotransmitter and prevent neurotransmitter to reach its receptors. So it prevent muscle contraction by preventing reaching the nerve impulse to it. Okay, so no nerve impulse here, no nerve impulse. So the answer is A. Why? A toxin blocks the binding of neurotransmitters to receptors on motor neurons. Okay, so the answer is A. 29. The diagram shows the structure of the human eye, which labeled part reflects light entering the eye. Light refraction takes place by cornea. Okay, the cornea in letter D. Okay, cornea in front. Also, light refraction takes place by certain structures in the eye, like what? Like aqueous humor, like lens, like also vitreous humor. All of these structures found in the eye refract light when entering the eye. But the answer here, letter D, cornea. Okay. Number 30. A patient is injected with adrenaline. Which graph shows the expected changes to pulse rate and the blood glucose concentration? What would happen to pulse rate of a person if injected with adrenaline and also blood glucose level? For time after injection on x-axis and the pulse rate, okay, for y-axis and the other y-axis blood glucose concentration. Okay, the key: pulse rate dashed line, blood glucose complete line. So after injection, say for letter A. For letter A, it means, according to figure A, blood glucose concentration decreases after time of injection, gradually, okay, decreasing. Okay, while pulse rate increasing. Here increasing pulse. Okay, and decreasing blood glucose. It is wrong. It is wrong. Why? It increases pulse, yes, but decreasing glucose is wrong. Because adrenaline increases blood glucose level in blood. So letter E is wrong. Check letter B. Both blood glucose and pulse rate decreases. Wrong. What about C? Both blood glucose increasing and also increases plus pulse rate increases. Yes, right. So the answer is C. The effects of adrenaline. Adrenaline in general. Okay, adrenaline shows certain properties, certain changes when injected or when released in high amount at emergency. Okay, at stress. Look at eye pupil diameter increases for more viewing, okay, for sharp vision. Okay, mental alertness for our brain. Decreasing what? Decreasing blood flow to skin. The skin become yellowish of skin, to avoid great loss of blood during fight. This hormone called fight or flight hormone. Okay, liver break down glycogen into glucose, so glucose level must increases. Okay, what about intestinal motility? Decreases. No need for absorption now and for digestion, even digestion. What about fatty cells or adipose tissue? Breakdown of fats into glucose as extra source of glucose in blood. What about muscle contraction? Increases efficiency and increases breakdown of glycogen into glucose, like in liver also. What about heart beating rate? Increases and the pulse rate increases, so the answer is C, is correct. What about breathing rate and depth of breathing? Increasing also. Okay, now the answer is C. Number 31. The diagram shows the shoot and the root of a seedling responding to gravity. Which row shows where the oxygen accumulates and the effect of this in the shoot? Where is the shoot? Look please. The seedling lie horizontally where its germinating or growing parts radical, like this part radical. Okay. Later it forms roots. Okay. And plumule. Later it forms shoot. Okay. The question here about the shoot, the effect of oxygen accumulation of this shoot. Okay, what its effect? Look firstly at the shoot. Where is shoot? Here in this figure. What its results? Due to the seedling lie horizontally, the accumulation of oxygens on the lower surface here, like these particles. Look please, in these particles. This stimulate what? This stimulate elongation of the cell. Higher concentration of shoot stimulate elongation of the cells, becomes more longer. Look at the length or dimensions of each cell longer than the above side cells. They are short on the upper. On the lower they are longer. Stimulate the elongation of the cell wall and the cells entirely, so stretching the shoot upwards. Okay, the reverse for the oxygens, if found accumulated on the lower part of the radicle, it inhibits, suppress growth of cells on the lower part, while the upper part become longer, so stretching the cells, all the cells of the radicle downwards. Okay, oxygen retards, suppresses cell elongation on this sides, although it causes elongation on the other side of the shoot. It's okay. This is due to gravity. So the answer now, which row shows where oxygen accumulates on the lower surface due to gravity? What its effect on shoot? Promotes cell elongation for letter B. Okay. Number 32. Which factors would increase the chance of antibiotic resistance developing? Number 1, regularly giving antibiotics to healthy livestock. Sure, giving cattle and healthy livestock with antibiotics more regularly will increase the chance of antibiotic resistance developing, like MRSA, for example. This number 1, it's okay. This increases the chance. What about 2? Only using antibiotics to treat bacterial infections. We use antibiotics to treat bacterial infection after certain test called antibiotic sensitivity test done in medical lab to check which antibiotic is perfect or susceptible to kill this type of bacteria. Okay, like this 2 types, for example, they are highly sensitive to kill the bacteria. So only using antibiotics to treat bacterial infections would decrease the chance, so that's wrong. Using several different antibiotics to treat an infection, this would increase the chance of evolving antibiotic resistant bacteria. Using good hygiene, personal hygiene, to avoid infection, this decreases the chance of infection and decreases the chance of antibiotic evolving resistance for bacteria. So the answer 1 and 3 together, 1 and 3 are correct. They are increasing the chance of antibiotic resistance developing, like MRSA, for example. So the answer is B. Antibiotic sensitivity test done on patient sample at medical lab before prescription of antibiotics by doctors. Okay. Number 33. What is an advantage of using asexual reproduction in crop plants? It can reliably produce many crop plants with a desirable characteristic. Letter B, it increases genetic variation. It only requires wind pollination. Letter D, it reduces the chance of a new disease spreading through all the crop plants. Look at this form. It follows certain technique, okay, in farming. It uses asexual reproduction to produce many plants, many crop plants with certain desirable features like big flowers, big fruits, less stem, and so on. Maybe this is a desirable feature for certain species of plant. So the answer is A, where offspring are genetically identical. They ensure that all the offspring have the desirable features needed by the breeder, by the farmer, such as large and attractive flowers, or good flavor, or high yield. All of this created by asexual reproduction. Okay? So the answer is A. What about B? It increases genetic variation. Of sure, wrong. Why? Because sexual reproduction with many different types of gametes with many variation is responsible for variation within a species if they are reproduced sexually. Okay? Sexual reproduction needed for variation, while asexual like copy and paste. Okay? Letter C, it only requires wind pollination. This statement is nonsense. Okay? Pollination is used when we need to transfer pollen grains from anther to stigma. This depends on sexual reproduction, on gametes. Okay? So C is wrong. What about D? It reduces the chance of new disease spreading through all the crop plants. Of sure, wrong. One of the disadvantages of asexual reproduction spreading of the disease easily. Why? Because all the offspring are genetically identical. They are susceptible to the same disease if infection starts to spread. Okay? Number 34. The graph shows the concentrations in the blood of 4 hormones involved in controlling the menstrual cycle. Which line represents FSH, follicle stimulating hormone? These two hormones, A and B, secreted from pituitary gland, anterior pituitary gland. Pituitary gland, okay? A, LH hormone, B, FSH hormone, okay? Follicle stimulating hormone. So the answer is B. It's okay. What about our discussion in this question? For letter C, estradiol or estrogen? Estrogen hormone. Estrogen secreted from follicle. Okay, then secreted from corpus luteum beside progesterone. Progesterone. So, 2 hormones from pituitary and 2 hormones from ovary. All 4 hormones discussed here like this. Look please. From day 1 to day 28, this is the full term of menstrual cycle, divided into 2 phases, follicular phase and luteal phase. Follicular phase from the time of bleeding, time of menses, up to mid-cycle, time of ovulation at day 14 for regular cycle. This follicular phase start where FSH is secreted at the beginning of menses. It stimulates follicle inside the ovary to become mature, and inside this follicle maturing egg is formed. Till day 14, another hormone secreted from pituitary gland called LH, this called luteinizing hormone. which trigger release of mature ovum from the follicle. The follicle passes passively to reach the oviduct and stay there, where waiting certain sperm by chance to be fertilized. The remaining part of ruptured follicle turn into corpus luteum. This corpus luteum make contract inside the ovary or with the ovary to produce both hormones, estrogen and progesterone. Estrogen and progesterone to maintain pregnancy if the egg fertilized. What would happen if the egg not fertilized? The egg decayed after 1 day, okay, of release, and the corpus luteum starts to diminish or to decay, to starting or to make drop of both progesterone and estrogen, to make menses start again. Okay, start again. Now the answer was B. It's okay. Look here to this figure. Hormones of pituitary gland, FSH, first peak, second peak for LH above the level of FSH. Here's at day 14 mid-cycle, okay, where ovulation takes place, and progesterone here with purple color, increasing thickness of endometrium, lining of what? Lining of the uterus. If the egg is not fertilized, the corpus luteum diminishes or decay. What would happen? Starting new cycle. It make menses again, period again. It's okay. Here copy paste like this part. Okay. 35. Mitotic index of a tissue is the percentage of cells in the tissue that are dividing by mitosis. The table shows information about two tissues samples X and Y. Okay, tissue sample X and Y, number of cells dividing by mitosis, number of cells not dividing by mitosis, total number of cells in the tissue sample. So, which statement is correct? We need to make calculations to answer this question. Okay, prepare your calculator. Now for X, tissue X. Okay, tissue X is growing fastest with mitotic index of 31.3%. Look, we divide 25, divide 80 total number of cells in the tissue sample X, and multiplied by 100 to produce 31.3%. So letter A is correct. Double check for Y. Y 15, dividing cells by mitosis 15 out of 110 times 100 equal 13.6. So this is wrong. Other choices are incorrect by misestimation or calculation of mitotic index. So the answer is A. Number 36. Fruit flies can either have red eyes or white eyes. Red eyes or white eyes. This is sex-linked traits with the gene for eye color located on the X chromosome. Sex-linked trait. The genes or alleles found on X chromosome. The allele for red eyes are capital, is dominant over the allele for white color are small. Fruit fly with the genotype are capital, X are capital, X are small, yeah, I mean heterozygous, was crossed with fruit fly with the genotype XR capital Y. Which percentage of the offspring will have red eyes? So easy problem. Look, red eye female, red eye male, red eyes but heterozygous, X are capital, X are small. Okay, X are capital, X are small. This female can produce two types of gametes, two types of egg. Egg containing X chromosome with R capital, another egg containing chromosome X with R small. 2 types of eggs are produced from this female. While for male X are capital Y, X are capital, okay, Y doesn't carry any alleles or any genes responsible for any character. Y needed for sex determination. Okay, here 2 gametes times 2 gametes equal 4 offspring. So by Punnett square, for male gametes 2 types of gamete, X are capital, Y. For female gametes, X are capital, X are small. By matching, you can find this structure, X are capital, okay, this female, X are capital, X are small, female with red eye, but heterozygous. What about male? X are capital Y, X are small y, this male carry white-eyed color from his mother. That's why this allele for white coloring of eye from where? From his mother, from this one. Okay, so what's the percentage now? F2 generation or F generation, offspring generation, here not F2, F1 generation or genotype, X are capital, X are capital, X are capital, X are small, X are capital Y, X are small y. He asked about which percentage of the offspring will have red eyes. Red eyes, this one red eyes, this one red eyes, this one red eyes. So percentage equal 37%, 75%, okay, or 3/4 are red eyes. Okay, so the answer is C. Which statements about variation is correct? ABO blood groups show continuous variation. Wrong. Body mass show discontinuous variation. Body mass shows discontinuous variation. No, it is numerical. We are differ in our body masses. Okay, so wrong also. Look at blood group firstly for letter A. Blood groups, ABO groups, antigen A for blood group A, antigen B for blood group B, antigen A plus B on the same red blood cell, both antigen found on red blood cell membrane, this AB group. Neither A nor B found on this red blood cells, so this blood group O, neither or 0 or O blood group. So this when represented in graph, represented as bar chart, this means discontinuous variation. Discontinuous variation where no intermediates, no average between blood groups. Okay, all populations of all countries throughout the world lie in this 4 columns. First column, second column, third column, fourth column. Okay, body mass shows discontinuous variation. It is wrong. Body mass is numerical, quantitative value, while blood group are qualitative value, not numerical. So body mass is continuous as they are numerical. What about seed color in bees shows continuous variation. Continuous variation. The seed color in bees either green or yellow. Categoric. So it is discontinuous. Either green, either yellow. What about shape? Seed shape in bees shows discontinuous variation. May be smooth or round like this part or wrinkled. So 2 shapes represent what? Discontinuous. Is this good answer or correct answer? Okay. The answer is G. Number 38. Which row shows part of the nitrogen cycle? It's a good chance to revise nitrogen cycle. Look at this cycle. Here, atmospheric nitrogen in air is fixed by certain type of bacteria in soil bacteria or nodular bacteria into ammonium ions. Ammonium ions NH4 plus. It passes through nitrification through certain type of bacteria where it changed into nitrite NO2 minus 1, then nitrite by excessive oxidation, by nitrification also, change it into nitrate NO3 minus 1. This nitrification process in 2 steps. Okay, ammonium into nitrite, nitrite into nitrates. Then nitrates absorbed by root hair cells of the plant were assimilated into amino acid then protein. Okay, now look at the question again. Which row shows part of the nitrogen cycle? According to my discussion, okay, nitrification process, chemical change, ammonium ions NH4 plus 1, oxidized by nitrifying bacteria in 2 steps. Firstly NO2 minus 1, this nitrite, then changed into NO3 minus 1, nitrate. Okay, nitrate ion absorbed by root plants. This by nitrifying bacteria, nitrifying bacteria. Here also by nitrifying bacteria in both arrows, nitrifying bacteria. This oxidation process where protons or hydrogen removed from the compound and replaced with oxygen with increasing number of oxygen atoms. This oxidation process called nitrification. Okay, so the answer is D. 39. When in vitro fertilization IVF is used in captive breeding programs, these processes occur. Number 1, the egg cell is fertilized. Number 2, the egg cell is removed from an ovary. Number 3, the embryo is implanted in the uterus. Number 4, the sperm cells are added. In which order do these processes occur? Let's revise IVF, in vitro fertilization. Firstly, the female animal is triggered to ovulate by injection with certain fertility hormone like FSH. Both ovaries are triggered to produce many mature eggs. At time of ovulation, the egg retrieval or harvesting, okay, in petri dishes in nutrient medium, where these eggs are prepared to be fertilized by male sperms, healthy male sperms, active male sperms. When the eggs are fertilized, it produces zygotes. This zygotes taken into another nutrient medium where mitotic division takes place inside incubator to produce embryos. This embryo is chosen and examined firstly and chosen to be implanted inside the uterus of the female or another female related to the same species, related to this species, closely related. They act as surrogate mothers instead of females of species at risk, endangered species. Okay, so number 1, the egg cell is fertilized, the egg cell is removed from the ovary, the embryo is implanted. This, I think, this is last one, this number 3. Okay, last one. The sperm cells are added according to the figure. Look please. Firstly, the egg cell is removed from the ovary. Yes, so we start with number 2. Okay, the answer A or B. Removed, then fertilized. Before fertilization, sperm must be added, so 2 and 4, then 4. Then number 1, the egg is fertilized after fertilization or after sperm as fertilization takes place. Okay, then number 3, the embryo is implanted inside the uterus of the female. So the sequence is letter B. Okay, Number 40. The diagram shows a bacterial cell. Which cell structure is useful in genetic modification? We use bacteria for many reasons in genetic modification. Easily to breed or to multiply by binary fission. Okay. Quick and produce a lot of individuals of bacteria in little period of time. Okay. Also, they contain certain circular DNA called plasmids. The answer is D. Plasmid. Plasmid is needed for genetic modification for cut and insert target gene inside these plasmids. For watching, my best wishes for all of you in your exams. Best of luck.